Hello students, we will start with unit number 4 and the devices which we will try to understand in this unit are generally called as breakdown devices. They are nothing but solid state devices whose working depends on the phenomena of avalanche breakdown. You know already what avalanche breakdown means. Avalanche breakdown happens when PN junction diode connected in reverse bias mode. As you keep on increasing the reverse bias voltage, the number of free electrons will keep on increasing, and at a certain voltage there will be large amount of free electrons available which will take part in the process of conduction. So that voltage at which current starts flowing in a reverse bias PN junction diode is called as avalanche breakdown voltage. Uh, all these devices which we will try to understand in this unit are referred by their generic name. Okay, they are called as, generally they are called as thyristor, and there are examples. For example, we had FET, field effect transistor, and there are two types of FET, JFET and MOSFET. Similarly, we have thyristor, and there are number of different types of thyristor which we will try to understand in this unit. Okay, so the devices which we will try to understand in this units are uni-junction transistor, specified as UJT, silicon controlled rectifier, that is SCR, and there are two more devices called as triac and diac. Okay, so the first one which we will try to understand is uni-junction transistor. Okay, so UJT is another solid state 3-terminal device that can be used in gate pulse, timing circuit and trigger generator application to switch and control thyristors and triac for AC power control application. In general, this statement specifies that UJT, that is uni-junction transistors, can be used to switch on or off high AC electrical power circuit. Okay, the symbolic representation and the construction of uni-junction transistor is as shown in the figure. Okay, so basically uni-junction transistor is a 3-terminal silicon diode. As its name indicates, it has only one PN junction. It differs from an ordinary diode that it has 3 leads. A normal PN junction diode will have, of course, one junction but 2 terminals, anode and cathode. But in case of UJT, we have 3 terminals, one emitter and 2 base 1 and base 2. And it also differs from field effect transistor. Field effect transistor can amplify the signals. Okay, can amplify the signals, but uni-junction transistor cannot amplify. They can only be used as a switch. However, the uni-junction transistor has an ability to control a large AC power with a small signal. It also exhibits a negative resistance characteristics which makes it useful as an oscillator. What exactly I mean by negative resistance characteristics, we will try to we will understand that when we go for the characteristics of uni-junction transistor. Okay, UJT have unidirectional conductivity. That means current conduction is only in one direction, and negative impedance characteristics. That is what I have told you. Negative impedance, that means, see, in Ohm's law, V is equal to IR, right? So when the voltage increases, the current increases because they are directly proportional. But if the resistance is negative, the current becomes negative, and if the current becomes negative, we can say that as the voltage increases, the current decreases. That phenomena is called as negative impedance characteristics. Okay, if you see the equivalent circuit of UJT, it's like a variable voltage divider during the breakdown, right? When a sufficient voltage is applied, it will act as a variable voltage divider. Okay, so if we go in depth for the construction of the UJT, it consists of a lightly doped silicon bar with a heavily doped p-type material. Okay, uh, for producing a single PN junction as shown in the figure. There are three terminals, one emitter and two base 1 and base 2, okay, at the top and the bottom of the silicon bar. The emitter leg is drawn at an angle to the vertical and arrow points in the direction of conventional current when UJT is in the conducting state. Okay. Second thing which we have to understand is called as inter-base resistance, the resistance between base 1 and base 2, which will be further specified as RBB. It is the resistance between base 2 and base 1, that is, it is the total resistance of the silicon bar from one end to another end with emitter terminal open. That means no potential is applied to the emitter terminal. So from the equivalent circuit, what we can see is that RBB, that is the total interbase resistance, will be given by RB2, that is resistance of base 2 with respect to emitter, and resistance, that is RB1, that is resistance of base 1 with the emitter. Okay. It should be noted that the point A is such that RB1 is greater than RB2. What you can see is why I'm saying that is because this PN junction is formed close to base 2 as compared to base 1. So this resistance between base 1 and emitter will be large as compared to the resistance between base 2 and emitter. Okay. Next, you can see the equivalent circuit of unijunction transistor. We have one PN junction diode and two resistance, which is between base 2 and emitter and base 1 and emitter, and VBB is the potential which we are going to apply between base 1 and base 2. Okay, and in the previous section we have understood that the total resistance between the base 1 and base 2 is RB1 plus RB2, which will be the total internal impedance of unijunction transistor. Okay. As the physical position of the PN junction is closer to terminal B2, I have already explained. This PN junction which is formed is nearer to B2 as compared to B1. So the resistive value of RB2 will be less than RB1. These two series resistance produces a voltage divider. Okay, produces a voltage divider network between the two base terminal of unijunction transistor. Since this channel stretches from B2 to B1, this I'm talking about this channel. Okay, the entire semiconductor your semiconductor device. When a voltage is applied across the device, what is the voltage which we are going to apply? VBB between the base 1 and base 2. The potential at any point along the channel will be proportional to its position between terminal B1 and B2. Of course, when the potential is applied between B1 and B2, some voltage will be dropped across this resistance and some voltage will be dropped across this resistance, and the voltage drop will depend upon how the PN junction is formed, nearer to B2 or nearer to B1. Okay. The level of voltage gradient therefore depends upon, of course, the supply voltage. The total supply voltage will be divided into voltage drop across RB1 and voltage drop across RB2. The voltage drop across RB1 will be called as VRB1 and voltage drop across RB2 will be called as VRB2, and the total supply voltage will be VBB. Okay. Now let us try to understand unijunction transistor operation. When a UJT is connected in the circuit, just refer to this diagram, and as I said, potential between B1 and B2 is the total potential VBB. When used in the circuit, terminal B1, that is B1 is connected to ground And of course, if B1 is connected to ground, that means B2 will be connected to positive potential. And the emitter serves as the input to the device. This is the emitter where we have a PN junction diode. So as soon as a VBB potential is applied, there will be a potential drop across RB1 and there will be a potential drop across RB2. Okay. So suppose a voltage VBB is applied across the UJT between B2 and B1 so that B1 is positively biased relative to B1 with zero emitter input voltage. That means no potential is applied to emitter. The voltage drop across RB1 of the resistive voltage divider can be calculated as, that means the voltage drop across RB1 will be calculated by this formula, that is RB1, the resistance between emitter and base 1, upon resistance between emitter and base 1 plus resistance between emitter and base 2 multiplied by the total potential VBB which has been applied. So that will give you the voltage drop across RB1, and unless and until emitter potential is applied, the PN junction will not, this PN junction will be in reverse bias condition, and if the PN junction is in reverse bias condition, no current will flow through the device. That means the device will be in off state. So now to switch the device from off states to on state, what we have to do is we have to give emitter potential such that it overcomes the barrier potential. And what is the barrier potential? It is the voltage drop between RB1. Okay, the voltage drop across RB1 which is given by VRB1. Okay, RB1 upon RB1 plus RB2 is called as eta, which is the intrinsic standoff ratio. So VRB1 is equal to eta multiplied by VBB. Okay, so if that voltage across emitter, if the voltage across emitter exceeds that potential, exceeds the potential across this RB1, then the device will be switched on. Okay, so it is obvious that emitter junction will not become forward bias unless its applied voltage VE exceeds that of the voltage across RB1. This value of VE is called peak point voltage and it is specified as VP. And when VE is equal to VP, that means if it reaches the peak point, what happens? The circuit will be switched on. Okay, the current starts flowing through RB1 to ground. As I said, RB1 will be base 1 will be connected to ground. The UJT is then said to have turned on, and in general term we say that we have fired the uni-junction transistor, switched on the uni-junction transistor. Due to the flow of emitter current through RB1, number of charge carrier in RB1 is increased. Of course, है ना, करंट अगर उसमें से फ्लो हो रहा है तो वो रेजिस्टेंस हम बोलेंगे कि वो कम हो रहा है, right? So as I said, due to the flow of that is emitter current, number of charge carrier in RB1 is increased, which reduces its resistance. और अगर RB1 का resistance decrease हुआ, मतलब eta जो है, which is the intrinsic standoff ratio, will also decrease. Hence, we find that as VE, that means potential applied across emitter increases, current through the transistor IE increases, which decreases the RB1, that is resistance between emitter and base 1, which decreases the intrinsic standoff ratio, and this is a regenerative action. So because of this action, what will happen is the resistance across RB1 will keep on decreasing, and therefore the eta, that is intrinsic standoff ratio, will decrease. Okay, which causes further increase in IE. Since VE decreases when IE increases, we say the UJT possesses negative resistance. This is a negative resistance property. That means when voltage is decreasing, current is increasing. Of course, according to Ohm's law, V is equal to IR. Voltage increase, current should increase. But when voltage is decreasing, current is increasing in uni-junction transistor. Therefore, we say that it is a it has a negative resistance property. It is seen that only terminal E and B1 is active terminal, while B2 is used to bias the terminals externally. It means only for applying external voltage across the UJT. Generally, UJT is triggered into conduction by applying a suitable positive pulse at its emitter. It can be brought back to off state by applying a negative pulse. Okay. For a unijunction transistor, the resistive ratio of RB1 to RBB, that is the total resistance between base 1 and base 2, is called the intrinsic standoff ratio, which I have already specified. Eta is RB1 upon RB1 plus RB2, and typical standard value of eta ranges from 0.5 to 0.8 for most common UJT. Okay, so basically what we are trying to understand is what is the voltage drop across RB1. It will be eta multiplied by VBB, the total potential which has been applied. Okay, so 0.5, say the potential applied is 5 volt. Okay, total potential applied here is 5 volts. So and eta value is say 0.5. So what is the potential across RB1? Potential across RB1 will be 0.5 multiplied by VBB, the total potential. So 0.5 multiplied by 5 will be 2.5. So this is the the potential drop across RB1 will be 2.5. So if the voltage across emitter is less than that potential, the device, the UJT, will be in off state. And if the potential exceeds, the voltage across emitter exceeds the the potential across RB1, the UJT will be fired, or it will be turned on, or you can say the current will be flowing through unijunction device, or unijunction transistor. So what we have learnt in the previous section is a small positive input voltage less than the voltage drop across RB1 is now applied to the emitter input terminal. See, less than the potential drop across RB1. The diode PN junction of course will be in reverse bias condition, thus offering a very high impedance, and therefore the device does not conduct. So we say the UJT is switched off and there will be no current, zero current flows in the UJT. However, when the emitter input voltage is increased, how much it has to increase? It has to go beyond the voltage drop across RB1. So if the emitter input voltage is increased and becomes greater than VRB1, or we can say eta into VBB plus 0.7 volt. Of course, I have mentioned eta into VBB plus 0.7 is the voltage drop across the PN junction diode. Okay, so when the voltage across emitter becomes greater than VRB1, the PN junction becomes forward bias and the unijunction transistor begins to conduct. Okay, the result is that the emitter current IE now flows from the emitter into base region, and we say that the unijunction transistor is in on state, or it has been fired on. Okay, now the last part of unijunction transistor, we will try to understand the characteristic curve of unijunction transistor. Here the graph has been drawn between VE, that is emitter current, to the emitter voltage VE to emitter current IE for a given value of VBB, that is the voltage applied between base 1 and base 2. Okay, so the figure shows the static emitter characteristic, which is a curve drawn between VE, that is emitter voltage, and IE, emitter current, of a UJT at a given inter-base voltage VBB. From the figure, it is noted that for emitter potential to the left of peak point, the emitter current IE, this is the peak point, right? To the left of peak point, the emitter current IE never exceeds IEO. That means the potential when no emitter voltage is applied. The current IEO corresponds very closely to the reverse leakage current, that is ICO. As I told you, if the voltage across emitter does not exceed the voltage across RB1, the PN junction will be in reverse bias condition, and in reverse bias condition only leakage current flows, which will be specified as IEO. Okay, so the current IEO corresponds very closely to the reverse leakage current ICO of the conventional BJT. This region, as shown in the figure, is called as cut-off region. Okay, it is called as cut-off region. And once conduction is established, that means VE is equal to V peak. Okay, this potential is reached. What happens? The emitter potential VE starts decreasing with the increasing in emitter current. I told you that there will be a regenerative action, right? When the UJT will be in on state, okay, current will flow through the RB1, therefore the resistance across RB1 will decrease, therefore eta will decrease and IE will increase. Increase in IE will decrease VE. Okay, so that is what has been shown. This is called as the valley. Here the VE value is decreasing as the current increases. Okay, so current increasing in VE value decreases. This region of a unijunction transistor is called as negative resistance, and this will be helpful when we design an oscillator circuit. Okay, so so now what happens is there will be a point which will where the voltage that is VE will keep on decreasing, and it reaches a minimum value. It reaches a minimum value which is called as VV, valley voltage. So therefore this device therefore has a negative resistance region which is stable enough to be used with a greater deal of reliability in the area of applications such as oscillators. Eventually the valley point reach, that is VV, valley point reaches, and any further increase in emitter current places the device in saturation region as shown in the figure. Three other important parameters of UJT are IP, that is peak to peak point emitter current, then valley point voltage VV, and valley point current IV. So peak point emitter current IP, it is the emitter current at the peak point. Emitter current, this is the point, right? Emitter current at the peak point. It represents the minimum current that is required to trigger the device, right? So minimum amount of current which will be required to reach this point, peak point, will be called as peak point emitter current. Okay. It is inversely proportional to the interbase voltage VBB, of course. Valley point voltage VV, the valley point voltage is the emitter voltage at the valley point, that is the minimum value of emitter voltage before it goes into saturation. The valley voltage increases with the increase in interbase voltage VBB, that is the total supply voltage between base 1 and base 2. And valley point current IV, the valley point current is the emitter current at the valley point. This is the current. It increases with the increase in interbase voltage VBB. This is the total valley current which will be flowing. Okay, so this is all about unijunction transistor. I hope you have understood. If you have any problem related to that, you can ask me after the class. Thank you.